Sheriff, we don't have one.
Are you sitting there?
No.
And, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I can't get out.
Oh, here.
Okay.
She's out.
I'm out and about. So,
Hey, you.
Get a better view of this. You'll break your neck this one. Yeah. You were right about that.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Hey, Jan.
See you.
Jan.
one. Okay. What?
See that green house there? I lived in that house.
Really?
No.
I like that house.
Yep.
Got a nice view. Okay, guys, it's Wednesday again in May. 15 years ago, I think it was, or maybe later. We started History in a Cup. And the idea, in the month of May, because it's Preservation Month, and the historic properties, we always do plaques, and we recognize homes that are over 100 years old in Webster, and this is the new exhibit that they've got up now of all the homes that we've recognized. Plus, there's a book with more homes. And because it's Preservation Month, we decided to do oral history. And on Wednesdays in May, at this time, for an hour, we get someone who's spent a lot of time in Webster. When we first started, we had the farmers, who's really, and 80 years old, telling us how they put their glass of water upstairs in the bedroom, and in the morning when they got up, it was frozen. When they wrapped up their clothes and put them on the bed next to them to keep them warm, so that in the morning they got up, they could get dressed. Anyway, but that's then. Now we don't have anybody around like that.
You want that?
I am. I'm around.
I know.
I remember those days.
You do?
I
Okay.
grew up with those days.
Yeah. So anyway, because it's Preservation Month and oral history, we do this. We look for someone who's been in Webster. So John just happened to walk in the door when I was thinking about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And for what? So I said, would you? And he said, sure. One of the things he said was, Lynn's not here, but he said one of the things I like about the Webster Herald, one of the best things, is Lynn's History Corner. So he does like history. And of course he grew up in the, or not grew up, but he joined the Hegedorn family.
Most of my life.
Yeah, which has a lot of history. So, Gonzo?
Yep, Gonzo everyone calls me.
Okay,
Not
Gonzo, I just learned that today. Here comes Lynn. Yeah. So Gonzo, everyone calls him. So this, ask questions, he said, if you want, and he's going to tell us his stories.
Lynn, welcome. Okay, first of all, I apologize for my hoarseness, and I know I'm going to be coughing, but I have a severe allergy to tree pollen. And this is the worst couple weeks for me to be speaking for an hour. So I'm going to try to break it up maybe with some questions or some feedback, whatever, from the audience here. Most likely at some point when I stop, I'd like to see how many years each of you have lived in Webster. Do we have over 50 right now? Many? Oh, okay. Okay, because I'm a 50, so, oh, okay. So, well, that answers a lot of questions. I have a lot of pictures here, probably 1% of everything that we have in all our families' houses and stuff. I just pulled these out of our office yesterday to show you some of the stuff. This here is an article from the DNC, August 4th, 1952. And it's the year that Bruce's father Cliff's barn burnt down, all but the silo they saved. And you can take a look at it afterwards. But that date, August 4th, 1952, was 12 days before my wife was born. And so I'm sure she doesn't remember that first couple of years of her life, but it had to be, and Bruce never talked a lot about a lot of things. And his family on his father's side, he talked even less about. I know there are some, in some of the real estate maps, Hegedorns with an H-A-G versus an H-E-G. I know there was some family rift, and some of them decided they no longer wanted to be H-A, they changed to H-E. But I think, judging from the journals, Cliff, who would have been Bruce's dad, probably born around the turn of the century. There were a couple other generations born in like after Civil War time and then before Civil War time. So, and then I've been to the cemetery, which I have 2 spots that I'm not too eager to fill just yet, and that they'll actually be filled with ashes and not my coffins. But
He was a big guy.
What's that?
Cliff was a big guy.
Yeah. Well, the 3 boys were great athletes. Both Babe, and there's a picture here of Babe. This is from September 21, 1988. It's a Remember When thing by Dick Batesing. And he wrote about the Webster Championship in June 1948. And this is a picture of Babe being carried off the field by his teammates after pitching close to a no-hitter. Now, he and his brother, who lived down in Florida most of his life, both played professional ball at some level. Their father, Cliff, played professional ball in out west somewhere for a few years before he came back to pick up the family farm. So they've got a lot of athletes in the family. So, excuse me. Now these will be, I could even leave these around, and if anyone wants to look through them, they'll probably see that there's a lot of faces in here over the years of a lot of the employees. This is one of my mother-in-law. I got my...
Want me to pass some around?
Huh? Yeah, you could do that. It would, you know what? Probably the pictures, would be more fun.
Yeah, not the pictures.
And there's some pictures of the first renovation. Bruce's Supermarket went from 2,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet to 23,000 and then to 43,000.
Oh my
What
goodness.
years were those?
The 53 was 2,000. He built the 2,000. The first store was 2,000 square feet,
Is that Karen?
right where the front part of the liquor store is right now. After that, they extended it to make it 7,000 square feet west, and then they extended it north to make it 23,000 square feet, and then they built a whole section on the back, and you'll see some of the pictures there.
Is this you, Karen?
Showing that construction period. But it was, at that point, one of the biggest stores
We found
in the
Karen.
country. Is that?
I found Karen already in one of your pictures.
Oh, okay.
Okay, why don't I do it in 2 groups? Okay? So we'll start some here, and then
Oh,
I'll
here's
start
another
some.
one.
Okay.
Gonzo,
Yep.
I worked there when it was a little store with 2 cash registers.
So were you there in the first, 1953 to 57 or so?
When I was 16, I went there to
Oh,
work.
okay. Okay.
Oh,
Wow.
16 and I'm 84.
Wow. Well, right now,
There was Susie Schrader, Fran Ross, and Marion Pinckney, remember the stage?
oh, yeah, Marion, I
show?
knew her.
Myself.
Yeah, yeah.
2 cash registers.
And Grandma Elma Smith was, helped
She was
Mary
in
and
the
Bruce.
office.
Yeah, right. Yeah, heard a lot of stories about
And
that.
then on Friday nights, Bruce and Mary would take us to the bowling alley, and we bowled every Friday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they took us there every Friday night.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, do you remember back in '53, a building, some sort of building there, when we've had more problems with construction on that site for the last 2 years, trying to do what we
Well, there
have.
was
I know the dairy
the
store
dairy
was at the
was there.
corner.
At the
That was at the
corner.
corner. I'm talking about right across, there was a foundation of something right next to where the original supermarket was, between the supermarket and Ridge Road, and we're assuming it was something that was there in the 20s or 30s.
well,
Wasn't
there
there
was
Garden
a
Dairy
great
there?
big,
No, Garnham Dairy was on the corner.
a great big
And that
pole
was-
there with the name on it there.
What's that?
There was a great big black pole that used to stand there with the Hegedorn.
Yeah, well, I know that, and I know all that, but there was, we had to put storm drain tiles in, we had to dig up an old footers and foundation for an old building that it's not on any maps, but it was an old building that was there, and we think it was probably from the 20s or 30s or whatever. But there's some pictures.
You had a chance to look at the maps that we've got here?
I looked a little bit, I
Okay.
didn't have a lot of time to
Yeah,
identify anything, but if you ever see
It might be
anything
here.
that would, like pictures, I mean, I've got pictures of the old Bill Gray's in the Atlantic, and they moved, and I've asked all his kids and his family, do you remember where this house came from? But I got a picture, I think it was in the Webster Herald, of a house rolling down Ridge Road, and that was, Bill was going to use that as an addition to the restaurant. Because his original restaurant, if anyone was there in the 50s, was a chicken coop.
Yep.
Yeah, he actually served
It was
that.
sitting outside,
Yeah, oh, you were there for,
Yeah.
oh, okay, huh. How were those burgers back then?
they were same as they are today.
Good, that's what I think, I'd have to say they probably taste a lot the same. But I'll tell you a little bit about him, so.
Wasn't School Pictures was there?
Yeah, in the Hegedorn's building for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And that was obviously a concern with the silver and the contamination when we did anything to anything, because
I
it
worked
was,
there right after school.
yeah. Okay, so now, let me start off identifying a little bit about myself and my history here in Webster. Went to the U of R, I'm from Syracuse originally, and
What part of Syracuse?
Salve, New York. Yeah.
Fairmount.
Oh, are you? Oh, because my brother lives there right now still, yeah. Yeah, I got another brother in South Syracuse also. So in any case, went to the U of R 1970. It was September, 8 o'clock calculus class. Oh, thank you. 8 o'clock calculus class, and I was sitting there getting ready for my first lecture from Professor McNamara, and this pretty young woman, obviously a girl of the 60s, a flower child. She had a butterfly on her, embroidered on the back of her jeans, and her hair was down, way down. And I said, well, this is going to be nice. This is what college is all about. And she sat down right in front of me. And that's my wife, Sherry. We didn't talk until the end of our junior year.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we went out senior year and took up, but we didn't get married till 78, but we lived from 74 to 78 together. Back then. I hope you don't frown at me for that, but those were the hippie days. But in any case, and one of the things that really made me stand out with her mom and dad is our senior year, we had them over to their apartment, to Sherry's apartment, and I was a cook. I'm from a family in Syracuse that just loves cooking, and I knew all kinds of things to do. So I cooked. I don't remember what the protein dish was, but I remember that I made an acorn squash with brown sugar, butter, raisins, walnuts, and they couldn't believe it. They ate that and said, he knows how to do this? And I've been cooking ever since. I love to cook at home Sunday. I'm the Sunday grandma at home. But in any case, and not only that, but I was an athlete. I played basketball at the U of R. And I replaced the children of the 60s in my wife's life with an athlete, a jock, and my father-in-law couldn't have been happier. So I'm not going to take that any further, but in any case, Bill, come on in.
How many kids did you have?
Oh, it's okay.
How many children?
3. I have Jonathan's 40, Michael's 39. They both work for the company right now. Jonathan's our president, and you've had him here. He oversees all of Bill Gray's and the construction, and he was overseeing he oversees the liquor store, and he was overseeing Hegedorn's when that was around 2 years ago. And Michael works for the company, does various things. I've got a daughter who's 37, and she lives in Delray Beach, Florida. She went to SU, went on to North Carolina State to get a vet degree, and now she's part of an emergency vet clinic that she joined when they had 2 hospitals, and now they're up to 93 or 4. And so she's been instrumental. She travels a little bit around the country. She was for a few years, and now she's settling down and staying pretty much to South Florida, which she enjoys. So, but it's a company called VEG, V-E-G, Veterinary Emergency Group. So, getting back to my history. So there we are, 1974, we graduate. I was planning on going back to grad school, as my wife ultimately did. And I went to work for an insurance company to just get rid of my school loans and stuff, which I did pay for 100%. And so as that progressed, that went about close to a year, and Bruce had a deli manager. Her name was Tess, and she passed away suddenly, so he didn't have a manager. And he said, I don't know if you're interested, but would you want to come and just see what the supermarket business is like? And I go, I was saying, I had my eyes on certain type of other career at the time. And I said, what the heck? What's a year, so 50 years later. So I got involved, and it was interesting, but I still was taking courses at the U of R and planning on ultimate grad school, until I had the opportunity to open the liquor store in 1977, which was only a year and a half went by. So that got my attention, and it required an awful lot of time. And so I just kept on taking single courses at school and doing all that. And finally, U of R said that I couldn't continue to get credit for courses without matriculating at the time. They had a rule. You have to get your degree in X amount of years. You couldn't do it over 5 or 6 years. So I stopped. I took the boards. I applied to school, got into school, was there for 1 full semester, and it was just too much. And I just pulled back and stayed with the supermarket and the liquor store. Then Bill Gray's came around in the late 70s, and Bill Galbraith, who's back there, he was deeply involved with everything, so he knows the whole story there. And I ended up overseeing that and the supermarket and the liquor store from '78 until my son came around, and he worked for Manning and the Pier for about 7 or 8 years. And I told him, I'm getting old. It's time for you to make the move or not make the move. Whatever, he had a good career there with that investment company, and he decided to make the move. And I thank God he did, because I'm still afforded the opportunity to keep my hands in everything on a daily basis, someplace to go, and still gives me a lot of meaning right now in my life. So.
How many generations then at Hegedorn? Generations, 3 working there.
Bruce was the first. My wife and her brother and sister were second, and then my son and sons were the 3rd generation.
Okay.
That's about as far as that goes.
It's amazing.
So So, now some interesting tidbits from Hegedorn. So, many of you may know, many of you might not know, that Bill Gray worked for Hegedorn's. He ran the Hegedorn's Deli. And that he was, and if you knew Bill Gray, he was a big, boisterous, hard-drinking, loud, if he didn't like you, you knew it, type of guy. And for some reason, he took a liking to me. Once I came and started running the deli, he made sure, he left, let me see, he opened on Ridge Road in late '38, went to Henrietta, and they moved to Penfield, and then he lost one of his sons, his oldest son, I think.
Bill.
Yeah, and it really put a hamper on him, and he just wasn't right there. So he got rid of that business, and I think that's what drove him to Hegedorn's. And at the time, too, he also bought Seabreeze restaurant. And then once he was at Hegedorn's, affiliated with Bruce, they partnered and bought the Ontario Bill Gray's. And then everything grew from there. But in any case, getting back to this story, I got a lot of stories about Bill, but I'll share one.
He was tough with his kids. He had a lot of kids.
Well, he had a dozen kids. He had to be tough. Yeah. And he made them all work as soon as they could stand up, I think. So.
I have a story.
Yep.
Thelma Vanderbilt was a volunteer here at the museum. I don't know if you remember her.
Yep.
But Thelma lived in the trailer park down behind the Atlantic restaurant, which was Bill Gray's. And Bill was building that restaurant at the time. She would wait at the bus stop and get on. They'd talk back and forth. So finally, he said to her, Thelma, I'm ready to make my first hamburger. You gotta try it. If it's good, I'm quitting Kodak. If it's not good, I'm not quitting. So she said it was good. So
Well, that was the story, because he worked for Kodak.
yeah.
And they lived in North Irondequoit in that village, the White Village there, or whatever.
Yeah.
And on the weekends, he would actually sell hot dogs and cans of pop out in front of his house, or bottles of pop back then. And he said, then he started making more money doing that in 2 days than he did at Kodak in 5
Oh, my
days. He said, that's when he opened the restaurant.
Was that the one on Ridge Road, Gonzo? Is that the one on Ridge Road, the first?
Yeah, it was a chicken coop.
Yeah,
That was his
but
first.
that was the first location,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
You know, where the Atlantic is,
Yep.
was Bill Gray's restaurant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was
Yeah,
a kid.
after he built up and had additions and took stuff down and everything, yeah. But in any case, let me get to this story, because it's kind of funny. So I was managing the deli for a few weeks, a month, and Bill would come in and show me how to do stuff. We'd have big top rounds, and that we had this chain type thing, and it would sit in the rotisserie and drip the juices down, and the beef would come out great. But he showed me the way he would do it. He'd stick knives in there and take garlic cloves and stuff them way into the big piece of meat. And it just used to come out beautiful. But then one day he said, Gons, today I'm going to show you how to cook the best haddock that you'll ever taste. I go, okay. So he gets on the phone and he calls this guy Van at Palmer's Fish. Van, Bill Gray, I want you out here in the next 45 minutes with 25 pounds of your best 12 to 14 fresh haddock. He goes, yeah, I can make it. I'll be out there, Bill. He goes, oh, and Van, make sure you bring me a bottle of Chivas with that. So Van comes in. He's got the fish. We pour it into the colander and start washing it with baking soda and cleaning it up. And he's got the bottle of Chivas, gets the ice, 2 glasses of ice. He goes, okay, Gans, let's go. He say, pours a full one, bang, we're drinking it. Now, we did drink the bottle, but Bruce came in to the back room before we got to maybe the last drink in the bottle. And needless to say, we weren't feeling any pain. And he goes, what the hell you guys doing? And Bill looks at him and he goes, well, I'm showing him how to cook fish. With the bottle of Chivas? Yeah, how else you show him? He goes, oh, Jesus. So Bill pours one, he goes, "Here, come on, have one, Bruce." And I'm going, "Oh my God, you know, here's I'm a month on the job, and I'm plowed in the back room." So he goes, "No thanks." Goes out, slams the door. We never heard anything again. But the fish was good. Fish was good. So I'm gonna take a break on the talking for a bit and just see how long you guys have been around Webster. And you know, maybe I've been on Lake Road too. I originally in '75 bought a house at the end of Basket that was owned by the Bettingers. They were teachers in the Webster School District, if anyone remembers any of them. We lived there for 6 years, and then bought a house down on the lake between Whiting and Holt Road. And that was like 1981. That was like 140,000 with 3 acres on the lake. So it was a good buy at the time, and I'm grateful my father-in-law pushed me. I said, "Are you kidding? We could never afford anything like that." And he just said, "Do it, bite the bullet, and you'll be happy at 10, 20 years." And he was right about that. So in any case, if anyone wants to start, how long you've been here, or if you have any stories, because I know quite a few of you have been in Webster for more than 50 years, more than I have, and there might be some very interesting stories or things to talk about that, if you like. If you don't, just your name and your years here, that's fine.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah, good.
15.
I started working at Xerox in 1966, and I didn't have a car. So they took us in a bus, a whole bunch of us, and brought us out here. And they stopped at Hegedorn's. I didn't know that they had offices in the bottom of Hegedorn's. I thought, why are they going grocery shopping? We're supposed to be over there working. And that's what they were. That's when Hegedorn's was in every place.
Yeah.
And just like Xerox was. But Xerox was down in the basement there and just all over town. And yeah, that's all.
Yeah, they had we had a few tenants there, and like I said, when we built out the space, from back in those days, there was no such thing as environmental concerns. And if you had something that could potentially damage the soil, and as you know, because of the ridge, the lake used to come right up the Ridge Road, and so the drainage all goes north there. So anything you had in there could contaminate anything down below. And we've had many environmental surveys that had to be done. And luckily, for whatever reason, we really didn't have the contamination. We had some big tanks that had to be pulled out, but they never, they were empty, and actually emptied and filled with sand. And so someone was paying attention to something, but we didn't have to worry about anything. And we've had quite a few renovations in the BJ's Plaza that we're partners with. Back there had to be certified free of any contaminants, and so.
Did the Army leave stuff in there, or?
No, you mean contaminants, oil and stuff? Well, they had that big garage there, but they, again, testament to their meticulous managing potential contaminants. They did a good job with that too. So we were pretty lucky. The building, unfortunately, wasn't as lucky because engineering standards back in the 50s and 60s are so much different than they are right now. And we thought that once we closed Hegedorn's a couple of years ago, we could just renovate the space. The walls are good, the floors are good, the building footers are solid, and all we have to do is, we did have $1 million of asbestos that we had to remove, and but that wasn't the big job. The big job was that it was built in stages not really adhering to current building standards, footer standards. So the footers were built in some cases, non-compactable stuff, like we had some kind of landfill that one of the farms used, and we had a big central column for this that was on that, and it was falling down into the, so we had to dig out all the landfill, put it in with compactable, jack up the column, and that was one of the whole south, part of the east, part of the north, all had to be, because of bad footers. Yep.
I remember moving here in the 70s, and it was, you had appliances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
the store. Just
matter of
about
fact, there's an
everything.
ad, one of the ads shows some of the giveaways,
Yeah.
free washer, dryer, stoves, and,
And the dairy was, the ice cream place was still on the corner.
yeah, so that, I
And
was.
milk, it was milk and
Yeah,
ice
yeah.
cream, I think.
Right, what we did back in the 70s, I remember late 70s, early 80s, I worked there to, we recovered Grandma Hegedorn's ice cream recipes. So I worked with the ice cream manufacturer, and we got the machines and everything, and went back and started making her, back in the early 80s, all her ice cream recipes. So we sold them quite a bit. Then we put an ice cream stand in Marketplace Mall when it opened in 1980. There was a Hegedorn's ice cream there. We supplied Grandma's ice cream with there. And, but then we,
When did you take that corner store
you know,
out?
I
In the
can't
80s?
remember. I think we did,
It was
yeah, it was pretty
Garnon's
late because we had, we did a big, mid-80s, we did a big renovation inside the store and figured we needed the extra parking, so that had to come down.
It wasn't very big.
No, but it, just the way it sit took up a lot of that corner parking and stuff.
That was Garnham's Dairy. He was the supervisor of Webster then.
Yeah, and that, so he had it and sold it and had it, and originally it was the families. They sold it to Garnham, and then he sold it back to the family at one point. I'm not sure exactly what years, but.
Which corner of Hartford was that on? Was it on the
Hardin
east or
Ridge.
the west?
What's that? Right on the
Northwest.
southeast corner, or southwest corner.
Southwest.
So where Hegedorn's is today?
Yeah, but it was
Right
just
on the
right up against the corner.
I mean, there was
The
a car
setback,
with
the setback was
with the car,
probably
yeah.
10 feet from the road. And on the south, maybe 5 feet from the road. You gotta be,
Yeah, it was right on top of the highway.
oh, yeah.
How much property did Hegedorn's actually own in Webster? Because they seem to be everywhere.
Here's the story on the major, Bruce's major holdings were behind the Hegedorn supermarket. There was 90-something acres. That was, his father's dairy farm went from 5 Mile Line Road to Hard Road and beyond the expressway. It was part of the expressway. The expressway condemned part of the land and paid the family for the land. But when he died, somehow he did, and somehow, I don't know why Marie, his wife, didn't get everything. Maybe they got, I know they were separated, but I'm not even sure, and I probably should know this, whether they were divorced or not. But when he died, he did not leave the 100 some odd acres to any of the 3 boys, Bruce in particular, because the other 2 boys were, so he didn't do that, and he left them to he left it to a woman in Webster that you might know, Mary Putnam. Anyone know Mary Putnam? Yeah, she had 1 million dogs in her house, and she and Cliff were pretty friendly.
Mary Pulver, Homer Pulver's sister,
On East Main Street,
Oh, yeah?
yes, I've seen pictures, yes.
So in any case, Cliff, so she survived Cliff, and she bought a plot for Cliff in the cemetery, and Cliff is buried next to her in the cemetery, while Marie is, Bruce's mother, is down further south in the cemetery. But there's a lot of Hegedorns and Hegedorns all throughout.
Well, they had all
Bruce's
that
mother was
property
in the
along the
state
lake too, where the
hospital.
cottages are.
Yeah, well, that was bought in 1978.
Oh, that late.
Oh, yeah, I was part of that. I actually had like 20% of that, yeah.
Because I had one of the bathtubs out there.
One of the bathtubs?
Yeah, Matt Frank took it out,
Oh, okay.
had it in his barn forever, and I was renovating my bathroom, and I said, I wanted a clawfoot tub. He says, come and get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Matt would find a lot of stuff over the years.
Bruce's mother was in the state hospital the whole time.
Now, when was that? Because I heard
Well,
something.
when I
but-
was there working in a small store.
But she wasn't living on the ridge, and when my
No.
wife Sherry was born
No,
in
she was in the
53?
state hospital.
At that time?
Mhm.
Really? Oh, that is very,
Ask
so what year?
Ask Sherry when you go home, because
Well,
she would
she
know.
remembers going over to a house on Ridge Road. Maybe she got out and then came to live with the family on Ridge Road after a few years, maybe in the mid-50s, because Sherry remembers her. Because Sherry was born in 53.
Well,
And the-
Sherry knows that her.
Yeah, because the
mother was
store,
in
well, she
state
wouldn't have known
hospital.
back then, because the store was built in 53. And again, for Grandpa, for Bruce, to tell stories to his family about anyone. Her family was from Michigan. Cole Brewery was one of their big family businesses, and her first husband was a doctor. Then she met Cliff playing baseball. She was a real sports fan, fell in love with him, and married him, and came back and kind of helped run the family farm. So, some stories there, but that's interesting. And you don't know how many years you think she might have been?
Well, she was there a few years, I don't know, she's been gone for quite a while.
Did it have something to do with the marriage, or do you know, or was it?
I don't know why she was in there,
another
I
issue?
really don't know.
That's interesting, thank you, yeah.
Because, Babe had some problems too.
Yes, well, I saw that picture there. Now, Babe was beautiful. In 1938, he was awarded in the Chicago World's Fair for some reason, because the family's from Michigan. They must have been there or whatever, but he was the country's best baby or something like that. We've got a calendar from 1939 in the dairy store that has his baby picture on it, and it's got World's Best Baby, Chicago World's Fair, 1930 something on it. But yeah, he was, and of course, as you know, he worked in the store until he died. He did the cereal
also
aisle.
had some problems.
What's that?
He also had some problems.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely. That's why, I mean, but he was nice and caring, and you talked to him and you couldn't tell that there was anything wrong, but he just wanted to come into work, do his job, go home, live a nice quiet life. His brother Gary, on the other hand, ended up in Florida, the older brother, and he was a Heineken rep, and that's why Bruce liked Heineken so much all the time. But
What was Babe's actual name, first name?
Dwayne.
Dwayne, thank you. I couldn't think of that for the life of me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm fairly new to the area. I've only lived here for 15 years. I'm still I'm kind of unclear with the Bill Gray and the Hegedorn connection.
Connection? Okay, so what happened, again, Bruce and Mary used to go down to Bill's place for burgers in the 40s or whatever.
And this was where the Atlanta?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, okay.
So, and Bruce opened his store in 53, maybe 49 or 50, 51. Somehow they got to know him because they liked to go down there. There, and next door was the old, what was it before Shiano's? But they'd go to Shiano's. I remember going to Shiano's for spaghetti and
Oh,
meatballs.
I know,
And that
you
used-
could bring a bowl and fill it up
Oh
and
my
take it.
God.
Take it
In any
home.
case, so they got to know Bill there. And then Bill moved down to Henrietta, sold that. And then Bill's son died, and the family stayed close.
Okay.
And the son died, and Bill was just kind of wandering.
Well, it
And
was Bill Jr., right?
yeah, right.
He had a white 58 Chevy, 348 motor with two barrels on it. That was the fastest car in Webster before he passed away.
Really?
Oh, everybody, and all those guys envied that car.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Did you know him well?
I didn't know him at all,
Oh,
actually.
oh, you just
But
knew that he
knew
had
of
that
him,
58.
Let's put it that way.
Oh.
But he had something, what was it with his
He
neck?
had
or
no
his-
neck.
Yeah, his neck
He
or his
didn't have- he
back
didn't
or
have
something.
any-
It was,
He didn't have a neck.
he was always kind of scrooched down like this, you know.
Huh.
I
Yeah.
graduated with him.
Oh, you did? Oh, so what was he like in school?
Huh?
What was Bill like in school? Was he, did you know him very well?
Quiet. He was quiet,
Yeah.
you know, he was a quiet guy, not like his dad,
Uh-huh.
but,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well, he had a huge family,
Yeah, but
12.
he didn't have a neck.
Huh, I wonder what that was all about. I'll have to ask his,
I don't know, what, you know, he was just born that way.
wow,
No, I lived in Kuchar.
that's interesting.
And he always would be like this all the time, you
Huh.
know.
Okay, so getting back, Bill came back and got a job at Hegedorn's because he liked Bruce a lot, Bruce liked him, so he had him run the deli. So he ran the deli, and while running it, he had the opportunity to buy a restaurant in Seabreeze. The first, that was kind of the first one. So that was, and then he had, with all the family, kids and stuff, he had plenty of work for everyone to do there. So he had his staff was all set right out of the bat. So he was running that and in the deli. And then Bruce asked him, the opportunity came up in Ontario, and he said, tell you what, why don't we partner in this operation in Ontario? So Bill said, oh, that's fine. So they ended up partnering, and he had that. So one of the funny stories that Bruce had, he goes, so it wasn't 6 months, he's walking out of the deli with one of those big top rounds, 40 pounds or so, and throwing it in his car. And he goes, where are you going with that? I'm going to the restaurant, to use it in the restaurant. He goes, well, wait a minute, we got to make sure we do this right. You bring it to the restaurant, half of that's you, half of that's me, but that meat's coming from me. And so and they got things resolved, but and to the point where they grew a nice sized chain of restaurants over the course of a number of years.
I can remember in probably around 57, 58 or whatever, whenever you put the first edition on, it went back from the original one.
Oh, that was the early 60s. The first one, I believe, went from 2,000 to 7,000, and that went west. And then, on the north side of that, it pushed out 23,000. And then, on the north side of that, to 44,000.
Well, the whatever version it is, it's pre-1961.
Okay, well, that was probably the first 7,000, yeah.
Yeah. Going over there with Lynn Barton's aunt after a school dance to have a hamburger before took her home.
Well, a burger, oh, you mean with Bill
At
Gray?
Bill Gray's, yeah.
Oh, his restaurant. Oh, okay. Now, wait, so he
It
was
had to be
operating-
57 or 58, somewhere.
but he
around
wasn't, you didn't have a burger at deli that Bill served. You had a burger down at the restaurant where the Atlantic is, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that had to be the, what, 60s?
Before 61.
That was 1964.
Oh, okay,
I
yeah.
want to ask John
Okay, so,
when he gets a minute.
so he must have gone down to Henrietta after that, so.
I wanted to ask you, this, I put it in the Herald.
Oh, I know, I asked everyone in the family
Nobody
about it.
knows where it came from?
No, I asked Dan,
Darn.
everyone in the family, if they saw that, they said they don't even know. But I saw after it was attached to the restaurant too, but no one knows where it came from.
Isn't that weird?
No,
It didn't come very, I probably didn't come very far.
no, it couldn't have.
It could hold 40 people, and
Yeah.
it was, this is it being moved.
Yeah, I saw that, and I
And if
asked,
you get the Webster
What
Herald,
is
you
that,
see
what is the
it,
date of that?
1950.
Okay. So that's where I had the hamburger, was in that building.
in that building.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And I think they attached it to a smaller building that was
okay, so
already there.
he must have been operating after Bruce opened in '53. And then later, do you know when Bill Jr. died? Because that was the big,
It was 57.
oh, was it?
I think so.
Oh, okay, because he was in
Because his
Henrietta
dad bought him a
then.
1956 Chevy no, it was Ford convertible,
It was a Ford,
right before he died.
yeah. It was a
Wait a
Ford.
minute, where did the white 58 Chevy come from?
I don't know, but I know it was a Ford because he took my sister out for a date one time. Yeah.
Maybe he had many.
Showed up at
Maybe
the
it
house
was
and
one of the other
everybody
grades, I
was
don't know.
impressed
They
with the
had
car. What it was a Ford
Yeah, it was a
Fairlane,
Ford convertible.
blue and white,
Yep.
yeah.
Huh,
Must have been one of the other brothers that had that 58
yeah,
Chevy.
well, either way, it's interesting that y'all
Once you know,
remember that,
relate
yeah.
to cars.
Yeah.
Well, today, does Hegedorn own Bill Gray's? What's the situation now with?
No, so back in the late '80s, Bruce and Bill decided things were going quite well. So they had decided that they're going to diversify. And they got involved in Pyramid Equipment Company, a chicken franchise called Quick Chicks, and what else? Yeah, well, those are the two big things. They decided to try to franchise and diversify there. And then they into both equipment selling. Oh, the big one was doing Zab's kiosks in convenience stores up and down the East Coast. So to do that with Zab's, they had to purchase the rights from the defunct public company and got involved in all kinds of legal snafu. So they had legal issues from the Zab's controversy and from the franchising controversy, because that all of a sudden, these people, the franchisees they're almost not with your best interest. So everything dismantled pretty much, and the company was insolvent by 1988, 89.
I remember
That's
Zab's, it was the Zabcar family.
Yeah,
right?
Dave Zabkar
They
and Mike
started down
Zabkar.
in
Park
Park
Yeah.
Avenue and Oxford Street.
Yep.
Yep. So in any case, that all happened, and I remember Bruce and Mary, he was starting to get comfortable about going down to, they got a place in Marco Island, and he would go down for January and come back in May or whatever, and they were really excited about doing that. And then meanwhile, the bank had to turn around and realize they're insolvent. No more loans, you gotta make do with what you got. And so it was very, very rough. And he asked me, he said, that if there's anything you think you wanna do or can do, go ahead, be my guest. I'm comfortable with the supermarket and my other stuff. And so I structured some options and buyout stuff and things like that, got involved with it. And ran it from '88 to 2000. We ran it without any loans from M&T, Central Trust. We just cash flow, supplier credit, whatever it was that, if we needed a piece of equipment, that was always tough. But it was remember 12 very, very stressful years, and that's how I got this gray goatee. Other stuff saved this.
Pharmacy,
What's that?
the pharmacy, what year
The
was that?
the pharmacy, we put that on. We got involved with Tony D'Ambra, who was the guy that ran Freddy's. If you remember Freddy's
Okay,
from
yeah, I
Southtown.
miss Freddy's.
Yeah, well, Freddy's, they sold to CVS. Tony worked for them, and he and his partner worked for us. They managed the discount drug center, and we ran that for a number of years, and it just never really
Never did.
took hold. So he left, and he opened the discount drug center in Parrington, and that one failed, but unfortunately, that time, he owned it, and he personally guaranteed his home. And it ended up that the landlord that did a nasty on him where he actually took it, so.
They
I
had
see
the dry
Tony.
cleaners in there too.
What's that?
They had the dry cleaners in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Right, I forgot about that.
In Hegedorn?
Yeah, Hegedorn.
Shop.
Yep, sure.
There was a bank in there.
Oh, it was downstairs?
Oh, yeah, we had Manufacturers
The whole
Hanover Bank
downstairs.
in there, Webster Dry Cleaners, Agentas that were in there. We had Bill's Lock and Key.
Oh,
You
yeah.
remember Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of characters that, and I'll tell you, I mean, it's just sometimes I try to sit down and go over the years and try to remember all the people that worked there and they're gone. There's a lot of pictures here of families, like the LaSalle family. Al LaSalle ran frozen foods. His wife, Marie, was a cashier, and then Barb worked at frozen foods, and she just passed away recently.
I took exercising upstairs from Larry and somebody else.
Larry Lightcap and Stan Kozlowski. Oh, you were downstairs in the fitness center then, you went down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, I have a story on the hamburger wars.
Did everything
Yeah.
but sell cars.
My wife worked at Candy Kitchen way back
Oh,
in the early
okay, yeah.
60s. And after basketball games, I tried to talk her to go to Candy Kitchen because Bill Gray's was like 25 cents more a hamburger. And so I ran out of bullets because she said, all her friends are going to Bill Gray's. And I said, oh my God, there goes 25 cents. Plus French fries and everything else. I went out there, those hamburgers were fantastic, and I've been a fan of theirs ever since.
Well, I'll tell you, it's ever since I had my first in the 70s, I always thought there's not a piece of meat that I prefer than a Bill Gray's cheeseburger properly cooked. And we used to be able to cook them rare until the E. coli hit the scene in the late 80s. And then we had to make sure that they're cooked beyond 165. And it's always a challenge to make sure they're still nice and juicy. But it's a lot of it's a function of the fat level. And we maintain with our beef supplier to keep that level right around 14–15%. If it gets much leaner, if it's an 87 or the worst ground beef in the world is like a ground round that's 90 or 95% lean, and you go, oh my gosh, that's beautiful, it's all red. You put it in the pan, cook it up, and it tastes like shoe leather. Well, we keep that formula, and we use a certain cut of the cow. Generally, four-quarter beef is a lot tastier than hind-quarter beef to begin with, and we've been doing it the same way. We still scoop it out, put it on a pie plate, and press it down, and put it aside. And we've done, in the last 30–40 years, we've tried everything to become more efficient at it, and we've had to the point where we've had our meat supplier buy big, expensive patty making equipment that looks like the edges are hand pressed, but they aren't. And we tried that, and that didn't come out the same. It didn't come out as juicy and tender. And we even had beef cutters at the plant, hand pressing the burgers out and putting them on, with a wax paper, putting them in 10-pound trays and sending us that way. We figured, well, if we do it here, or they do it there, it's going to be the same. Sure enough, we tasted them and go, that's not the same. And what was happening is they press it out, put it in the cardboard boxes, and within 24 hours, the moisture level
was in the
would
cardboard
slightly
box.
dry out, and the proteins in the ground beef would bind so that it wouldn't be as tender a bite.
Right.
And so here we are, like, he was doing it in the 50s, the same way we're doing it in 2025.
Voodoo
75
hamburgers
years.
would be a science. right?
What's that?
I say voodoo hamburgers
Well,
would be
we've
a
tried, believe
science.
me, we tried everything
Yeah.
and went through a lot of investments trying to come up with a good way to do it. But both Bill Grace and Tom Walls still end up going back to the pie plate. And we get it fresh ground and get it in there, and then we press it and we use it either that day or the day after.
What's gonna happen to the existing Bill Gray's building?
We're working on companies that are going to lease it, restaurant companies that are looking at it. So we'll close that down in early July, and then up above, the Bill Gray's tap room will have, half of it will be like a regular Bill Gray's. The other half will be a big rectangular bar with tables and service in 2 party rooms. One of them opens up on the east with big garage doors to a patio that you could sit inside or out. And we've got 3 golf simulators for the golfers and a golf room back there, so you could have golf parties 12 months a year if you want. We got a big dart room, and so it's our flagship. We've got a store almost that big in North Greece Road, which was our biggest, and but this will be the biggest and the best. We're putting.
Are they gonna have a grocery store in there?
Well, one of our ex-managers currently bought Herma's, and he operates Herma's out in Rondequoit. Does a fantastic job there. He also opened 3 other stores, one in South Syracuse, one in Ovid, and one in Clayton. The one in Ovid, just this past winter, burnt to the ground. So he was devastated by that. Meanwhile, Canandaigua National, their bank was going to be financing everything, and they got cold feet. They said they didn't think he could operate a supermarket in between 2 Wegmans with all these BJ's and all the other competition.
Even if they carried on with some of your Wegmans traditions of,
Hegedorn
or
traditions.
Hegedorn traditions.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. We
Of
didn't close
the cuts
because
of
those
meat
traditions
that
were working.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our customers ended up buying about half of the national grocery store average. So although everyone loved our meats and our donuts and some of our products in the store, they would buy those and then generally buy most of the groceries elsewhere, whether it's Aldi's, BJ's, Wegmans, whatever. And so it became
Carried all
difficult.
of the brands that nobody
Oh,
else
yeah,
has anymore.
we carried a lot of stuff, and everyone was very happy with it. But the big thing was
Not enough.
that, in my estimation, because I was the one that had to make the decision. And
Not
in my
enough.
estimation, I asked that my wife's family, if there's anyone there that really wants to roll up their sleeves and put in the 70 hours that's necessary. I had too much going on with the other companies too, along with that. And my older son, also just didn't have it. My younger son didn't want it. And so that was, whoever would make a commitment there could have made it work over the next 25 years. But that business is a very, very hard business. I remember at the store at 6, home at 9 at night, and
Well, it's only our generation of people going to Hegedorn's that like certain products.
yeah, right.
Our children are more into the
But
fast food.
even now, because we've got suppliers like our beef and dry goods supplier. We talked to that individual about a Palmer's type food, meat, seafood, and groceries, and maybe, produce and things like that. And he said that, as it is right now, I have a tough time finding a person to cut meat. So all the skills are gone, and the big supermarkets have reacted primarily to getting stuff packaged in a warehouse facility, sending it to the store. The shelf life, now you got 6 to 8 days on steaks, when we used to have a steak in the case, and if it doesn't sell by the next day, you had to kind of put it half price. And so it's a whole different business at this point, the supermarket business.
One of the things I like best about the store, aside from the food, was the parking was laid out differently than many of the big stores, and you could always get a really good parking spot there, no matter when.
That's because we had it laid out wrong.
Well,
Yeah,
it was good. I think
that
you're
was
right.
brought to our attention a million times.
And they brought your groceries to the car for you.
Yeah, well, that was a big plus, but as you might think right now, in the last 10 years of our existence, the minimum wage in New York went from $7 to $16. So we're paying high school kids $16 to do that, and just by the time they go out and come back in, that would be a very expensive service, and the other big companies would do it. You carry your own stuff out there and pay yourself for the work. So there were a lot of things that kind of led to the end, but we were proud that we kept it going from 53 to 23. So that was
I've been in Webster over 40 years, so I've got a couple of funny Hegedorn
Yeah, go
stories.
ahead,
One,
yeah.
my husband's favorite fruitcake was Claxton fruitcake from Georgia, Claxton, Georgia. So I wanted to surprise him one year, and Hegedorn's was the only one around that carried it. And I went there and the shelf was empty. I mean, you had to get there like really early in the Christmas season to get the fruitcake. So one of your managers, he was a short, very thin guy, wore glasses, he saw me looking, and he says, no, we'll get some more in.
Oh, Dave
I
Daniels.
said, well, I want to surprise my husband. He said, well, give me your phone number, I'll call you. Well, this is before cell phones, so the kitchen phone rang, and my husband answered it. And he said, tell your wife her product is in. He didn't give anything long. And I agree, wherever any product, Hegedorn's carried it, so I would always tell the manager, you've got a great niche business here, you ought to promote the fact that you have a
we would promote it,
Yeah.
but that's exactly, they come in and buy those 3 items, and then the rest of the stuff, but the
I'm
basics.
guilty of that.
And my favorite is, during COVID, I volunteer at a soup kitchen, and Hegedorn's very generously donated a lot of, because we were just doing lunches they could just take, make and go lunches going through the line, and Bill Gray's and Hegedorn's donated so many disposable products and condiment packages. They were very generous, and I know you've been very generous with our community.
A daily pickup, 6 days a week, every Sundays, where different soup kitchens and churches, etc., would come in and take anything that, whether it were dented cans or produce that's a little distressed that I would eat without bidding.
Soon to expire, I would see that stuff.
Donuts, they got day-old donuts that everyone, all the soup kitchens love.
I want to say something about you hiring high schools to carry out the groceries. That was such a marvelous thing to do, because it woke them up to the world that there were adults, and they had to speak to adults.
Oh, so well said.
And speak to older people, and that was the beginning of them being socially introduced to the world.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was great.
You recognize it. We did in upper management, and a matter of fact, there were young kids that would come into both Bill Gray's, Tom Wall's, and Hegedorn's, and kind of look at us like, what's in this for me besides a weekly paycheck where I could go to the movies or whatever. And so our orientation would involve just that this is what's going to be more important to you than that $50 paycheck every so often. You're going to develop a sense of responsibility and a work ethic that you're going to be 20 steps ahead of anyone that hasn't worked.
I told my grandson, who couldn't speak to anybody, you know, other than, and I said, now all these little ladies come in, and you carry their groceries out, you chat with them. Ask them how the weather is, or how was their walk today. And you might get a tip. And after his first week, he says, Grandma, I can't believe it.
Now he's a marketer on top of it. What was his name?
Sebastian Kulak.
Oh, okay.
You actually had him running the off inside several times. I mean, he actually
the courtesy
could,
desk.
Yes, he
Yeah.
could actually speak to people, which he couldn't do when he started.
Oh,
the
you
job.
wouldn't believe the stories that we had for over 70 years of
yeah.
that.
Oh, I know,
And
I
Bill
know.
Gray's Tom Walsh too.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it's
I know
just,
the whole group.
it's
yes.
amazing
What you did.
what that part-time work experience
Yes.
does for young
Oh, it
kids.
turns them right around,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
I
We've had
remember-
some beautiful
And
kids.
I remember when my kids were toddlers, and that was a long time ago, you never went on Tuesday
Yeah.
morning.
1 o'clock.
Because if you couldn't put your kid in that wagon and keep them out of the way because the bus came.
Oh, yeah, from the
From the
Phillips Village.
Yeah, and all these old ladies dressed in their fur and every drip of jewelry they owned, and they would knock you over so fast in those aisles because they're gonna
Oh,
get the bargains. It was hysterical.
Yeah, we used to have
And then
bus-
send the Packers back with them.
Oh, yeah.
for
And
carrying
then we
their
did that
groceries.
right up to the end to some of the senior living facilities where they made arrangements with us, the people at the facility could place an order, and they placed the order with us. And at the time, we were answering the phone, and these people were going, okay, I need what is that stuff? And it'd take us a half hour to write the order, and I'd go in the office, and I go, oh, this is killing me. And I watch her writing the order down, then we go out and fill it, and put it in the truck, bring it, deliver it, and have our, some of our senior guys, they were just so well received by these people. They bring in bags of groceries, and they go, oh, you got that, you can't, I've been waiting, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But that was, we were proud of the joy and happiness that we created over the years with,
That was the key to
with that business. I mean, it was difficult to run, it wasn't very profitable, and Bill was our bookkeeper accountant. He can attest to the challenges that we had trying to make things work from a profit standpoint, but we stayed with it, and of course, in testament to Bruce, everyone here that knew him knew that he was a very, very generous, community-minded, caring guy. Anytime, you know, back in the days when the store was making a lot more money, he did stuff like put lights on the athletic fields and made major contributions to the community. And
I think over the years, I can't remember anybody saying anything bad about that whatever anybody needed, whatever group it might be. If Hegedorn's was involved, that group ended up with what they needed.
oh, yeah.
He
we did.
sponsored a lot of bowling.
Bill, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, first, this is Tom Walls. I grew up in Avon. I was 12
Come,
years old.
Bill, come in here. We can't hear you out there.
Okay, come, just a
When
couple
is Bill
things.
Gray's opening?
I grew up in Avon, and I'm a real old man now, darn. But
Older than me.
thanks a lot.
But we worked
I have
together.
nothing to
How
say
many-
now.
How many years did you work with, you and I worked together there at Hegedorn's? When did you start?
Jeez, I can't remember.
30 years?
At least, and then I
30 to
was,
40.
then I was with him, I worked with him when he was in
Before,
his
yeah.
association with some gentlemen, and we had a, called Imperial Food Liners. They were gonna start some stores. And it went fairly well, and I forgot exactly how that happened to go away, but they had the right idea. but Tom Walls and Avon, I was, what, 12? My last year in Little League, first year and last year, and what was neat, he would give us a banana split if we had a home run. I only had 2 home runs, but darn.
Those must have been great days.
Yeah, and he got so much, there was so much excitement when he came and built that store to have the ice cream and just different things. And I don't know, there's a lot, you know, for Hegedorns, I got involved, I forget what year, I was involved when Bruce was involved, some other stores, and I was working out of Superfood Services in Avon at one time. I used to unload boxcars, and then I got a job in the office. And
Had to be early 80s.
well, it was-
Because Sherry and I had our first son, Jonathan, in 1983, and we had a nursery in where Bill's office eventually was, right across, and Sherry and I had 2 desks side by side in the office next to each other, so we had, we lived basically out of the office and brought him there in the morning. One would watch while another had a meeting, and when someone went up, it was kind of a funny thing. And then finally we said, enough of that. And you came.
Yeah, so that was good. I've got a couple things on that.
Thank
You know, you always respected the family, and Bruce was, I felt was very good to his employees. I felt he was very good to me. And John, and everybody, but there was just so much respect that I would have for the family, because they were always very nice to me. And I do remember when they opened the store, we had the store, basically I hate to say this, I shouldn't say this, kind of owned the business here in Webster until our competitor came in and built his store. And that really hurt us quite a bit. But they've always been good, honest people, and I just praise them all, and I thank them very much for employing me in different positions, and they were very good to me, but they were good, honest people, and Bruce was a great guy.
Yeah.
And John, we'll
Gonzo, you call me John. You that's right, you always call me John. One of the rare birds.
Gonzo, I would have never done that.
One of the rare birds.
No, but I respect him, and he had quite a responsibility when he came in and started doing things. But they've done a lot of good for the community, and I thank them, and I thank them for allowing me to work for them.
We still got your desk, Bill. I keep telling you, you need
Okay,
some part-time bookkeeping. Sharon, you want to get him out of the?
Get them out of the house.
One of the things I wanted to say is that back when I was, when the little store was there, we started, you're talking about wages, I started at $2 an hour. And we were lucky when they gave us the raises, they gave us 5 cents. That's the way it was back
You
then.
started at $2 an hour in the.
$2 an hour.
How was I only making $1.50 when I was working tonight? You must have been a high price. You must have been a manager or something. Well, in any case, I think we're closing in on that. So let me leave with this. Our Bill Gray's in Webster will be open hopefully mid-July, maybe by the end of July. Whenever it's going to be open, it's going to be open. But as you know right now, in our Bill Gray's company, we have Abbott's Ice Cream in a lot of our restaurants. We have a master license for that. If there's not an Abbott's within 3 miles of a location, we could put an Abbott's in. If there is, which in Webster, there's an Abbott's in Empire Boulevard, we can't do it. So we make our own custard. That custard, by contract, can't be exactly the same butterfat content that the Abbott's ice cream is. But we make sure that it's a special blend, and it's really darn good. Now, what I'm going to ask all of you to do is, I got free ice cream cones for all of you. Go in and try it now. We'll have it in a new restaurant up above. Get a cone. In Abbott's, our specialty are the almond ice creams. We make a chocolate almond and we make a vanilla almond that is out of the park. In Bill Gray's, we happen to do the same thing, and it's out of the park, but it's different than Abbott's, and I have to say that. Is it better? I would say yes.
You're not biased about that at all.
Well, I can't. Now, if you really like to spunk it up, because I'm trying to get our operations people to think out of the box a little bit, if you want something really good, the vanilla almond is unbelievable, especially if you like vanilla ice cream. But you could get that with chocolate sprinkles mixed in.
Oh, that's good.
So you could have almond, chocolate, and vanilla all in one coat. Now, they probably don't sell a lot of those. But if that sounds tempting, and you don't want a chocolate almond, and you're not allergic to nuts or whatever, use these coupons to experiment with what you might walk out of there and say, he was right. This is the best ice cream cone I've had in my 60, 70 years of existence, 80 years of existence. So, I'll pass these out, and then you guys, if you want, you could take a look at this. Thanks. How you doing?
I have to say, I'm from Syracuse, but I've lived here in Rochester from '71 and moved to Webster in '76. I lived right around the corner from Hill's Horse Farm, and I just always shopped at Hegedorn's. It reminded me of hometown customer service and quality of Williams and Balduzzi's. You would recognize those from Syracuse, you know, as far as a hometown type customer, family-run place. It was so nice to find it here.
We all miss it.
Yeah, because you don't see it everywhere. So it always made it.
I asked kids when they first, they got it, I can't figure it out.